Hello everybody and welcome to my Pure Ravens guide. This build utilizes Aspect of the Wild Rage, Aspect of the Stampede for damage, while also utilizing utility temperings like Raven's attack speed and Raven's CDR alongside Pack Leader to help use the ability much more often. So let's go ahead and hop on into it. So the first thing you're going to want is Aspect of the Stampede on a two-handed staff or a two-handed axe, preferably the staff, but it depends on if you would rather have damage while they're healthy versus whether if you'd rather have more consistent damage all throughout, right? That's why I choose the staff. So you're going to want willpower, critical strike damage, max life, elemental surge, Raven's damage, and Aspect of the Stampede on this. You're going to want to make sure your master works and your greater affix is on willpower. Next up for the amulet, we're going to want to have Call the Wild Ranks, critical strike chance, Envenom, Raven's damage, Raven's cooldown reduction, and Aspect of Retribution. So what this is going to do is let you do 45% increased damage to stunned or knocked down enemies. Now the way that I am currently proccing this is by putting a chance to stun onto the gloves, but what you can also do is utilize Maul and Shred over Claw and Pulverize. What this will do is Maul will actually knock down enemies, which will help you proc this more often. But this was just the best thing. There isn't really an insane amount of other things once you get outside of Aspect of the Wild Rage and Aspect of the Stampede to even put on this. So that's why I put it on here. Unfortunately, we're still lacking a true Ravens legendary. Next up on the gloves, you're going to want willpower, critical strike chance, attack speed, Raven's damage, the chance to stun to help proc that Aspect of Retribution, and Aspect of the Wild Rage. What this is going to do is make it to where your Ravens gain double the bonus from the Bestial Rampage key passive, so they're going to be getting a 100% damage amp from it. Now, keep in mind that for whatever reason, the attack speed does not seem to be buffing the Ravens. I feel like this is a bug, maybe it's intended, but hopefully they change that in the future so your Ravens can get an additional 60% attack speed, because from my understanding, the Bestial Rampage is in a different bucket from the Raven's tempering attack speed, so it could potentially really help juice up that passive. Alright, next up we're going to have Aspect of the Elements on our first string. You're going to want critical strike chance, willpower, up to a 34.8% chance to make enemies vulnerable for 3 seconds, Raven's damage, and Raven's cooldown reduction. Now, this every 7 seconds is going to increase your Raven's damage by about 30%. You can also run Edge Masters if you'd like. It's a 20% damage increase. However, it also is based on the amount of spirit you have, and because I was running Pulverize, I'd opted to not go for that. Alright, so on the second ring, we're going to be going Bold Chieftain's Aspect. The reason for this is we're running Debilitating Roar. That has become a shout skill in Season 4. This is going to help us reduce the cooldown of Debilitating Roar by up to 6 seconds. Now, you're going to want willpower, critical strike chance, attack speed, Raven's damage, and Raven's cooldown on that ring, but this hopefully is going to help us get to as close as to going infinite with Debilitating Roar as we can get. Now that we are done with the offensive stuff, let's hop onto the defensive stuff. So first off, we have Aspect of Might on our helmet. You're going to want +8 to Ravens, cooldown reduction, max life, Raven's attack speed, and Debilitating Roar cooldown. Next up, we're going to have the chest piece, Aspect of Concussive Strikes. This gives us a 20% damage to dazed enemies while also helping us proc the daze, which is really nice. So it's really just a 20% damage increase in a defensive slot. You're going to want armor, max life, Debilitating Roar ranks, Raven's attack speed, and Debilitating Roar cooldown. This is going to be another major piece in helping us get towards that infinite Debilitating Roar, because more ranks in Debilitating Roar does decrease the cooldown. So you are going to want to try to make sure that you have this as maxed out as possible with your masterworking ranks. It's going to be a little bit challenging, but it is doable over time. On the pants, you're going to want armor, max life, resist all, Raven's active size, Debilitating Roar cooldown, and after casting 5 basic skills, one of your active cooldowns is going to be reduced by 2 seconds from our Hectic Aspect. This is going to help us get our Raven's cooldown down. It's going to help us get our Debilitating Roar cooldown down, and this is also another reason why we're running Claw over Maul, is because there's a chance for it to attack twice, and Claw has a pretty nice lucky hit coefficient. So very good with this. Another option too is you could technically run Crone Staff if you didn't mind giving up a 30% damage increase from your Aspect of the Stampede, and that is kind of an interesting option. Next up on the boots, I'm going to recommend we go Flicker Step. The reason for this is because we are going to be comboing Flicker Step with Inner Beast in our Paragon tree to allow us to decrease the cooldown of Lacerate by as much as possible, because we're going to be running Lacerate to get another 40% damage amp to our Ravens. So our goal is to try to get Lacerate to as close as to 0 cooldown as possible, or at least get it down to where it's sub 10 seconds so we can always have that damage buff up. Okay, hopping on into our basic and core skill selections, you're going to have Claw, Enhanced Claw with Wild Claw. What this does is helps us with Hectic. It also has a really high lucky hit coefficient for Pack Leader. It's really just going to help us with lucky hits in general and getting those to proc. Then we're going to be using Pulverize as our spender. The main reason for this is that 1, it keeps us in our Werebear form, and 2, it gives us a nice 20% damage reduction buff. Well, sorry, it makes enemies deal 20% less damage, which is just really nice to have. And then we're going to go ahead and pick up the 3 passives down here for some crit, damage reduction, and move speed. Okay, for defenses, we're going to go Debilitating Roar. We're going to max that out. What this is going to do is give us a nice life regen passive, as well as make the enemies deal 70% less damage. And it's also going to give us Fortify every single time we use it. It's going to last for 4 seconds. Then we're going to go ahead and take the passives here to get the all resistance, as well as once you actually get your Debilitating Roar cooldown low enough, it's going to help us keep this Vigilance passive up to where we get 15% DR all the time. Now, it's not going to be up all the time because obviously Debilitating Roar at first when you have lower gear levels, but as you scale up higher and higher, you should be able to get to that 100% uptime on that for some absolutely massive damage reduction. Alright, so now moving on to the companion slot, we're going to want to go ahead and put points into Poison Creeper, Enhanced Poison Creeper, Brutal Poison Creeper. This is going to give us a nice crit bonus to help with our Pack Leader. Then we're going to want to put 3 points into the Call of the Wild passive. In combination with the ranks you can get all the way up to a 120% multiplicative damage bonus to your companion skills if you can get Call of the Wild up high enough. Then we're going to go get Ravens, max out the Ravens, get the Enhanced Ravens for a crit buff, and Brutal Ravens for 2 additional Ravens, and a 40% increase to the passive damage. All we're going to be taking in the Wrath skill tree are going to be some passives. The first one being Neurotoxin, so we can put a slow on anything that's poisoned. Secondly, Envenom. This is going to give us a nice crit bonus. Now, the current working theory for Envenom is this is actually increasing the critical strike damage multiplier, not just your bonus critical strike damage. That's why Envenom is being seen as so good, and it does seem to be that way. It is a pretty nice damage increase. And then we're going to go 1 point to Toxic Claws just so we can put a poison on things with Claw, and that'll be it for Wrath. Okay, now for our ultimate skill selections, we're going to be going Lacerate, Prime Lacerate, and Supreme Lacerate. You can go Petrify if you want, but honestly, I'm kind of becoming a fan of Lacerate if you can run it with the Flicker Step combo, just because I like how low the cooldown is, and I also like just the kind of oh shit button to like just dodge mechanics. I just think it's really nice. So what this is going to do is it's going to give us a 40% damage buff every time Lacerate critically strikes. So because we have such a big bonus, and as long as you use this after you activate Poison Creeper, you should be able to crit and get that 40% damage increase. But if you don't, it's cool. Maybe you'll get it next time. It's all good. All right, so then we want Quick Shift. So when shifting into a new animal form, you're going to deal 3% increased damage up to 18%. This is the main reason, or one of the main reasons, why we have to do this whole Claw and Werebear thing. Is Quick Shift is just kind of crazy, and it's going to be going all the way up to 24% when this new patch drops. And then Heightened Senses also gives us a 12% damage reduction buff and a 12% movement speed buff when we have both of these passives active. So again, another reason to do Quick Shift, because it really just gives you access to the most damage reduction and the most damage possible, I feel like, right now. And then Natural Fortitude, so every time we shapeshift, we'll fortify. It'll help keep our fortify up. One thing you can do is you can also drop some points from the movement speed passive that we have all the way up in our core skill tree and drop it over into defensive posture, and that'll actually give you another 9% damage reduction while fortified, because that is getting buffed on the newest patch. All right, and lastly, for our capstone, we're going to be taking Bestial Rampage in combination with our Aspect of the Wild Rage. This is what's going to give us 100% increased damage for our Ravens and 60% increased attack speed for our Ravens. And the cool thing is too, is it also, obviously benefits us. Now, our damage isn't really anything that crazy. Pulverize isn't really going to do a whole lot, but a nice 30% attack speed increase in combination with Claw is already 50% attack speed. So a lot of attack speed just to help us, proc our lucky hits and do stuff like that. All right, and now for our boons, we're going to be going Wariness, Iron Feather, Scythe Talons, Pack Leader, and Masochistic. The reason why I like Iron Feather is because, yeah, the bonus damage, critical strike damage is cool, but this going up to 20% on the most recent patch is just so much life that I feel like just stacking that's pretty worth it. However, if you're doing like lower stuff and you just want more damage to try to one-shot things, Avian Wrath is still fine. So for the Paragon, we're going to go Fang and Claw because we are going to be in Werewolf and Werebear form quite a bit, even if we do pop into human form to cast Ravens. So the damage bonus should keep going up every time we use Claw and stuff like that. It'll definitely affect the passive damage of your Ravens, if nothing else. But the reason why I take this is because it gives us some nice resist all. I really focus on defense now out of the Paragon tree as opposed to just trying to get every little bit of damage that I can. If I can get multiplicative damage, I try to get that, but at the same time, defense is kind of, I feel like, more important out of the Paragon, and it's going to be how you fix your resist all and get those up to max and stuff like that. So anyway, so we have Fang and Claw, gives us some bonuses, gives us a multiplicative bonus, and gives us some nice defense. Moving up into Heightened Malice, we have Spirit. This gives us another multiplicative damage bonus every time we crit, because Ravens can crit. Why? To me, it reads as if it should be a dot, but it does actually crit. So this will give us some nice crit damage and a multiplicative bonus, as well as we're going to get some damage reduction from poison to enemies, which will be pretty nice. Some extra damage to poisoned enemies, but yeah, so pretty solid. And then coming up here, we're also going to be getting some poison resistance and max life, as well as Heightened Malice, which is going to give us a 45% damage increase whenever 3 or more things are poisoned near us. So a lot of damage, a lot of defense, especially poison resistance coming out of this one. Coming up here, we're going to hop up here, get Ancestral Guidance. I really only picked up Recuperate just because we were right next to it. Like, it was the fastest way to get here because I didn't really care too much about the maximum spirit or the spirit on kill, but you can either go this way, pick up the spirit on kill, or you can go this way, pick up the potion healing. But you do want Ancestral Guidance because we are going to be using Pulverize, so that's going to be a 30% damage increase as well every time we spend 75 spirit, and that's going to be roughly every 2 to 3 Pulverizes that you're going to get that bonus. Alright, so moving over here into the Inner Beast. Now this is where that Flicker Step tech is going to come in. So after shapeshifting, your spirit costs are reduced by 5% for 10 seconds, up to 45%. If you reach 10 stacks, this bonus resets, and the cooldown of your ultimate skill is going to go down by 5 seconds. So this is just to help us get our Lacerate off cooldown faster. Going right here, we have Wilds. This also is a really high intelligence one. So it might be the high. It's like, if it's not the highest, it's going to be like equal to, yeah, so Lust for Carnage has 54 int, yeah, so it's one of the highest int boards that you can get for the Druid. Not only that, if you go this way, you have some nice access to armor, max life, some damage, the legendary node, as well as the wilds. If you try to go like this way, you end up coming through here, and you don't really care so much about shape-shifting damage. You really just want to get the defensive stuff and then get your Wilds glyph in. So if you don't know what Wilds does, it increases your companion damage by 267%, which is an additive bonus, but it's still quite a lot just because of the sheer amount of additive damage that it is. And it increases the passive portion of your companion skills by 130%, and that's a multiplicative bonus. So when you stack that on top of, Stampede, and then you stack that on top of Bestial Rampage, and then you stack that on top of just the 40% passive damage bonus that Ravens get, it actually makes your Ravens, theoretically should be doing a lot of damage. Now, I do think that, the Ravens damage is bugged, or the passive damage is still a little bugged and not doing as much as it should be, but I think that'll get fixed in the future. So, then coming down here, the reason why I like to go Constricting Tendrils is actually because we have a lot of all resist in here. Now, once the next patch drops, it should be soon if it hasn't already dropped already as of releasing this video, they're actually tuning down the secondary to where it's going to be easier to hit our secondary bonuses. So here I actually am already capped out at 70%, but after that patch drops, you might be able to take these points out, either fill out like some damage here, or you could come over here and pick up some over here, I actually am a big fan of picking this stuff up. So 20% damage to poisoned enemies and some damage to elites. So there's some other things that you could go and try to pick up once that patch drops. If you know, getting the secondary bonuses and stuff like that from this end up overcapping you a little bit. But yeah, so you go territorial, you gain 10% damage reduction against close enemies. Main reason we take it is just because it's damage reduction. Come over here for courage, we get some max life, which is pretty cool. And then lastly, going up here to lust for carnage, we're going undaunted. Again, taken for the 10% damage reduction while fortified. Now, the one thing that kind of sucks about this one is we don't really care a whole lot about this. The reason why I came up here is simply because it had the easiest access to getting that 25 int without having to like spread out too far, right? Because when you go to like the ones that have like a low int, typically they don't have like a ton of int around the glyph. You have to kind of like go like out of your way to get to it. Whereas if you go for this one, it's like on the way there. You got 2 here, then you got 1, 2, and 3 here, right? It's like all right next to each other. So yeah. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for the Paragon. And that is also going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys have fun playing this build. I know I have. I think the build's very, very fun. It's not some crazy OP broken build, but nonetheless, it is fun to just watch Ravens kill everything. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.